Hi, everyone. Welcome to another one of our live calls today. Today, we are going to be talking with Julie Garrett and Kathy Cook from the Small Business Administration about financial assistance that is available to people who were affected by the storms we had come through last month. Um, they're going to answer some common questions and walk us through things a little bit here. Thank you both for being here. Julie, would you like to kick us off? Oh, and I'm sorry. We'll also be taking questions. The Q&A is open right now, so if you guys have questions, feel free to type them in there at any point. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you. So everyone, my name is Julie Garrett. I'm a public affairs specialist with the Office of Disaster Assistance with the SBA. And my colleague is here as well, Kathy Cook. And basically we're here to give you an overview of what is available to you. So since this is a chamber webinar, we'll start with the business end of things. If you're a business owner, you can apply for physical disaster loans or an economic disaster loan, or really both. So if you had physical damages, you can apply for a loan to cover what was not covered by your insurance. And so even if you don't own your space, if you're a renter, you can also apply for the physical disaster loan. A lot of times people lose stuff inside their shop, but the actual structure is owned by somebody else. I just want you to know in that case, you can still apply for a physical disaster loan. So that is for your real estate. It is for your fixtures, furniture, inventory, tools, machinery, anything that was physically damaged from the storm and is not covered by your insurance. And those loans are at interest rates as low as 3.75% with terms up to 30 years. And there is a payment deferment of 5 months on those loans. There's no cost to apply for them. The application is free and there are no points or fees for the loan. And that is the physical side of things. Now, if you had physical damage and you're applying for a loan, your loan processor will automatically consider you for an economic injury disaster loan. So between the two sides of that loan, economic injury and your physical damages, your loan is capped, the amount is capped at $2 million. And it is really for your actual losses. You can't just say, oh, I want a $2 million loan. They're going to look at how much damage you had, the amount of damage you had that wasn't covered by your insurance, and your economic losses. And then together, they will offer you a loan amount to help you get through the recovery period. And these are the economic side of things. These are primarily working capital loans. The idea is to keep the business in business, to get you through the recovery period so that you can stay in business and operate on the other end of this disaster once you've finished recovering. So that's the physical side and the economic injury side of things. We also, when there's a disaster, the SBA does homeowner loans and loans for renters. So let me just describe them in case you or someone you know was impacted by the tornado at their residence. So in that case, people can borrow up to $200,000 for their uninsured losses. Again, the same thing. If they had stuff covered by insurance, we do what wasn't covered by insurance. And that is up to $200,000 at rates as low as 1.563%. Those loans also have a 5-month payment deferment. There is, again, no cost to apply, no closing costs or fees. And renters and homeowners can also borrow up to $40,000 for their personal items that were damaged, including vehicles. So basically, there are those 4 types of loans that we offer, any combination of those depending on what you need. Now, if you already applied for a COVID EIDL through SBA, you can still apply for this as well. It doesn't, they're not related in that sense. You can apply for both disasters. The COVID, if you already have your application in, that's fine. You can still apply for a tornado economic injury disaster loan. So that's kind of the big picture. If you have questions or want more information, we can go deeper. And we'll also tell you how to apply for these. But first, let's take a couple questions.
Thanks, Julie. Just to clear things up a little bit for folks, so we're talking about three separate loans here, one for physical damage, one for economic damage, and then another one besides those two for COVID damage.
Well, I'm just saying right now, everybody's thinking a lot about COVID, and a lot of people put in applications for the COVID EIDL. So if they have questions about that, I want them to know they don't have to worry. This is a separate thing, and it's okay to apply for both. And I think I left out, you can apply, businesses of any size can apply for a physical disaster loan. Nonprofit organizations, faith-based organizations, small agricultural cooperatives, all those different organizations are eligible for a physical disaster loan. For economic injury, you have to be a small business or a nonprofit organization.
Okay.
Yeah.
And those are two separate loans. So if you were to apply for physical damage plus economic injury, you would be filing for two separate loans.
Well, if you put in for physical damage, you're going to automatically be considered for economic injury. Let's say you
Okay.
didn't have physical damage, but you lived near where the tornado hit and things were closed for a while, and you did have economic losses, you can apply for an economic injury disaster loan. So let's say your people couldn't get into work for a while because they lost their homes and they're disrupted, or something happened. Your customers, you've lost your customers because they can't come in because of the tornado. You can apply for an economic injury disaster loan even if you don't have physical damage.
Okay. Good to know. Um, and where do people go to apply for these?
Okay, you can apply online. Our website is sba.gov. To get specifically to the application for this, you want to log into disasterloan.sba.gov. You will find the declaration information there, and you'll find the application there. You can also look at the paper application before you start filling it out online, just so you have an idea of what you're going to be asked for and you can get organized. And then we also, because in normal times we would have a center where we would have people there to help you, but because of social distancing, we can't do that right now. But we have a special phone number just for people in Chattanooga who need assistance. We have a special phone number that they can call and make an appointment, and we'll help them over the phone. And we also have a special email address for you guys.
Okay, good to know. This is a question that I know that I've heard come up a lot when we've done some of these videos around COVID loans,
Mhm.
and I'm going to guess people would have the same one here. Um, what sort of documentation do you need to provide to prove that you have damage from the storm?
Well, the physical damage, we do desktop verification of that, and we will investigate that. And of course, most people take pictures after, the storm. So you're not going to have to worry about that too much. I think that's going to be pretty obvious as you go through the process. Now, for the economic losses, Kathy is on the phone and she can explain how people with just economic damage need to back up their application.
Okay.
I think, Jeremy, you were asking about the COVID applications. And so what there are is different types of SBA disaster declarations. And so they, one for the tornadoes is one which offers money for businesses for their physical damages and their working capital losses. That's one application. You can get both types of funds. There's a separate disaster declaration that's national, and it is for economic losses of businesses due to the coronavirus. And there's no requirement to, quote, prove your economic losses. What we do is ask information such as gross sales, cost of goods sold, and a series of questions. And from those responses, we're able to streamline the entire process. And the whole application for those types of loans probably takes about 30 minutes.
Okay, good to know. And is there, how much roughly can people apply for with these?
Well, the max is going to be $2 million for everything. But like I said, it's going to be capped at what you actually, the damage you actually had that wasn't covered by your insurance, and what you're going to need to get through the recovery period as working capital to pay your monthly bills, payroll, and expenses. So max $2 million, and that's for either and or the physical loan or the economic injury, but altogether $2 million. That's correct, right, Kathy?
That's correct for the Tennessee declaration. For the COVID declaration, it again depends on what the working capital needs of the business are. So, you know, it's a determination that's made basically when the loan officer reviews the financial statements. So we actually, you know, have parallel processing here. And because the COVID disaster declaration is national, every single county, every single city, every single state, municipality, and Commonwealth is eligible. We have a separate processing system just for those applications, and it is streamlined so that it does not require the same things as are required for applying for the tornado damage. When you apply under the tornado damage, we're asking the business to supply tax return, IRS form 4506T, which we use to get verification of their tax filings. We ask for balance sheet, profit and loss, a schedule of liabilities, and monthly sales. If the business had physical damage, as Julie said, we generally determine that they're also going to have some financial losses, working capital losses. But if, again, if you're in an area that you did not have physical damage, then you are eligible for applying just for the working capital loan. And the way that we determine that, and these are again for the non-COVID, is we look at historically what the business did for the past few years. And then we see what they've done since the tornado occurred. And that's how we determine what kind of impact the tornadoes had on the damage. And then project from there how long it will take the business to recover. One of my greater examples is a restaurant. So the restaurant is sitting there and it just did not get touched by the tornado, but the surrounding road, bridges, and neighborhood were all damaged. So who wants to go to the restaurant and look at debris and look at people who lost their houses? And so that's how we have some businesses that have economic losses or working capital needs that didn't have physical damage. But let's suppose that that same restaurant was physically damaged and they're still in this area. We are determining whatever insurance didn't cover is what the needs of the business are as far as funds for repairing and replacing not only the real estate damage, but machinery, equipment, inventory, office supplies, furniture and fixtures, leasehold improvements. And then we're going to calculate just automatically some portion of the loan for working capital. Because if you're physically damaged, most often you're not able to do your normal operations. So it's a little bit confusing now because we have this national disaster declaration with a different set of criteria and processes that then we have for the tornadoes in Chattanooga. So people should make sure when they go online at the email address, or I'm sorry, the portal at the URL that Julie supplied, then they need to make sure that they look for the Chattanooga Disaster Declaration when they're applying to make sure that their application is being considered for physical damage and economic injury. When they use the portal now, if they have not already applied for the COVID, it's only currently open for people who have agriculture businesses. And so we need to kind of make that distinction. And this is very confusing, I understand. But for this thing, there's two types of disaster declarations. Actually, there's three in Tennessee right now because we had the tornadoes in Nashville, and then we had the tornadoes in Chattanooga, and we have the coronavirus. So there's different processes for physical disaster declarations versus the coronavirus. So we want people to make sure to go into the SBA portal and apply online. That's the quickest way because it's more accurate. You put your own information in, it doesn't have to be transcribed by somebody. And it goes directly from your computer to SBA's computer. If you are a agriculture business, then you can apply currently for the coronavirus. But otherwise, it's currently closed to other types of businesses.
Yeah. Another difference is that these loans, the physical disaster loan for the tornado and the economic injury, they don't require any collateral for $25,000 or less, but loans over that amount do require some collateral. So that is something to consider as well.
Okay. Do you guys have sort of an expected turnaround on the applications right now? How long before people tend to get approved?
We really don't have a way to capture how many days. Our normal processing for a disaster declaration is up to 21 days for a decision, but it really just depends on volume. And it's on a first come, first served basis. So we encourage everybody to get in the system as soon as possible. And as we discussed at the very beginning, this is a presidential disaster declaration, which means FEMA is in charge. And we want even businesses to register through FEMA. The reason for that is if later on there's any type of state grant program or other types of assistance, then we've captured the business information even if they didn't turn to SBA for assistance. And also we find out that when we don't encourage businesses to apply through FEMA, then they forget about their personal situations. So we want everybody to come through FEMA, and then all businesses would be referred to SBA, and some residents, homeowners, and renters will be referred to SBA. And by doing this, we ensure that both agencies are maximizing whatever assistance they can provide to each person.
Okay. Is there any other information you wanted to make sure we got across before we wrap up?
Just say what the protocol is, or the procedure. You submit your application, then the first thing that SBA is going to do is review the credit. And then if everything's okay there, we're going to do a desktop verification analyzing what the physical disaster damages are. And the loan officer is going to use that figure minus any grant funds or any insurance to come up with the physical loan amount. Once that's done, then if it's an approval, we'll have our legal staff prepare the loan closing documents, send them to you, and once you execute them is when we can actually disperse the money. So submitting the application is key. We don't need you to wait on a contractor's estimate. We don't need you to wait on insurance. And we don't want you to count yourself out. Because if you are declined for assistance, if you're a homeowner or renter, you may be eligible for a different additional grant consideration. If you're a business, if there's some program that pops up, we can make the referral to that program so that you can maximize whatever assistance is out there in the community. So don't prejudge yourself. Take the time. There's no cost to apply. There's no obligation to take the loan if it's approved. You can take any or some or none. And we've been very successful with offering applications for the Nashville tornado, and we want everybody to understand that we might not be physically there, but as Julie said, we have set up phone numbers to some of our staff directly so that if anybody has any question or they need, let's say, a little more hand-holding through the process, that you can actually talk to a person, or you can email your questions and get a response. We don't want anybody to feel like they have to go through the same telephone line that is kind of overwhelmed right now with all the coronavirus inquiries. So we've created this virtual loan outreach center, and we are here for you.
Yeah, another thing I want to mention is even though the declaration, we announced it April 27th, we've already approved 20 loans for the declaration. We're up to 984,000 in approved loans so far. So we're on this and we're going to help everybody as fast as we can. And we really want you to apply. You have 6 months to kind of use the loan. Like if you want to think about everything and kind of look at everything, once you apply and get approved, you don't have to use the loan right away. You have time to figure out what you're going to do. So it can be an option for you, just another tool in your recovery toolkit as everything's sorting out and you're figuring out what you want to do.
Okay. Thank you both. This has been some really extremely useful information, I think, for our members. As always, we will post a recording of this in our resources playlist along with the other video chats we've done. So if someone wasn't able to be here in person, they can come see this later. We'll include all of the information you guys have posted in the chat, in the notes on that video, so that hopefully people will be able to get a hold of that as well. Thank you both so much for being here.
Thank you.
We appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. Would it be okay too to send you some documents that people can use or can access off the Chamber's website?
Yes, absolutely. We have a resources page set up. We've got resources on there both for COVID and the storm damage that happened. So we can absolutely add that there.
Okay, I'll send them to you right after this. Thanks.
Okay, thank you guys.
Thank you.